Hi, very good afternoon to you. In today's video, I want to talk about how we can improve our knowledge retention. My name is Darren and I'm the English tutor from EnglishTuition.org. Now, a very common problem that students face is that they go for lessons but at the end of the lessons, maybe they have just retained a very small percentage of what has been taught in class, and over the course of maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, slowly, the memory just kind of fades away, and they find that they are having trouble recollecting some of the information and knowledge that they have just learned. Now, let's take a look at what is happening here. Now, the very first thing to help with knowledge retention, that we have to try and understand how the brain works. Right, I'm not a science student, but I'm going to attempt trying to explain in a very brief manner how the brain works. Now, the way the brain works is that there are millions and even billions of small little neurons. We are actually small little workers, that carry electrical signals throughout our brain. And when you look at the neurons, these neurons have the ability to be able to communicate with one another. And they do this through this thing called synapses. So the more active the synapses are, the more connected that the pathways are. So in effect, what you're doing when you are trying to recollect something, right, you are essentially building this sequence in your brain through these neurons and synapses that are all firing in your brain, and then that's when the memory comes back. So when you're having trouble recollecting or rebuilding a memory, it may have something to do with part of the synapses are not able to talk with each other properly, right? So this happens for several reasons, right? If you have a lack of sleep, you're not able to concentrate well, or for some reason you are fatigued, then of course this affects the ability of your brain, right? The function is no longer at a very high level. So we have to be mindful of that. Now, of course, if you want to remember something, let's just assume that the hardware is working as it should, right? And before I move on, one thing which I forgot to mention is that now the brain is like any other parts of our body, right? Like many other organs in our body, it is a living tissue, and in order for it to grow and develop, we have to actively use it, right? The keyword here is actively, right? So you can see that's why I'm such a strong advocate for active learning instead of passive learning. So I do not encourage students to come to my lessons and then they sit there, in their seats as if they're zombified, right? They look at you with a zombie look, right? You can't tell whether there's any neurons firing in their head, right? So they have to be actively using their brain in order to stimulate the brain into developing further. So that's why I always try to ask them questions, so they cannot just sit there and relax, and let Mr. Chow do all the talking. So they have to respond and they have to participate actively in the discussion. Even if they are not able to come up with intelligent responses, at least being able to give 2 or 3 word answers, that will be better than just sitting there and keeping quiet all the way for the 1.5 hours or 2 hours, right? So let's just go back to how we can help the student to improve the memory. Now let's just assume that the student is not tired, is not fatigued, his brain is able to function properly. So how can we help the student to remember the facts and the knowledge better, right? There are certain memory techniques that are very commonly known. One is building the memory palace in your head. That's when you can imagine or design kind of like a palace with different rooms where you compartmentalize the information and try to organize them into different rooms. And the trick to making this technique work is to revisit this room every now and then. See? The neurons are firing in your head, right? So the more you visit these rooms, the more familiar you are with, what goes where, what's in this room, what's in that room, then the more likely you are able to recall the information when you need them, right? Another common technique that is memory technique that is commonly known is called the Pipette Technique, PEG, Pipette Technique. Peg means we are actually trying to build the associations with what we are trying to remember with something that we already know. Okay, so this technique usually the one example I can give you is, let's for example say you are trying to learn the spelling of a rocket, right? R-O-C-K-E-T. So in order for you to remember that, maybe you can try to associate the word rocket or the spaceship, the shape of the spaceship, with the numeric figure 1, right? Because the 1 looks like the rocket. So once you build this association with your head, in your head, then it becomes easier for you to recollect the information at a later date. So if the question asks you, so how do you spell the word rocket? Straight away you think of the number 1, and the number 1, what appears in your head is somehow the number 1 can morph into this rocket, which in turn leads to the spelling of the word, and that should help you to remember the spelling better. Right, I hope I've explained it well enough, because I'm not a memory expert, okay? But in general, I think these techniques are helpful. There's one more common memory technique that we all know, and that's called the first letter technique. We see this technique being used very often in the course of our education, and I'm pretty sure you may have heard of this PEW method that English teacher like to teach, or English literature teachers like to teach, where we get the PEEL, where P is the point, E for evidence, and the other E for evaluation, and the last one L is to link back to the point. So this kind of provide a structure for the students to follow. So the entire concept and approach can be memorized just by remembering the first letter of the words, right? So instead of having to remember everything, all we need to remember is PEEL. So when we start to write, okay, first thing, where do we start? We write the point first. What is the point that we are trying to make? And then next point, okay, evidence. So we give the reasons, okay, or the examples that's required to support the point that we are trying to make. And then the next sentence, right, evaluation. So what is our opinion of that? What is our judgment of that? And we give our opinion. And the last step, okay, is to link back to the point, so that just to kind of sum up the point, that to ensure that we do not digress from the initial point that we are trying to make. So the entire structure itself can be memorized just by remembering the first letter of the word, right? So I hope this little video here, I've done a better job at trying to explain how to improve on the recollection of knowledge and information, and hopefully this will help you or your child to do better in his academic studies. Let me know what you think of the memory techniques that I've discussed in the comment section below, and if you like the video, please thumbs up, dislike, thumbs down, and if you want to see more videos like this one, please head on to my YouTube channel to subscribe to the video, or just try to follow me on my Facebook page, and or join my Facebook group. That's all I have for you in this video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.